the fuck is the Sniffer? G'day, I'm Vestige GG. And I have a healthy amount of excitement about the 1.20 update. I can hardly contain myself. What's relevant with the 1.20 update is I'm studying a Bachelor of Palaeontology and there's Oztaquio. I'm kidding, I love Oztaquio. It's a uni rivalry thing. Love the representation. And of course, it's introducing a new Minecraft mob, the Sniffer, and its baby, the Snifflet, which is the cutest fucking name I've ever heard of. There is, however, a problem, and that problem is Mojang's description. You boy, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, describes the Sniffer as a mole-like creature. Mole-like? This thing? No. I'm a paleontologist who takes things way too seriously, and I can tell you both from being halfway through my degree and my absolute love of animals that's not a mole. Additionally, according to Mojang, quote, "The Sniffer is an ancient mob. By reviving its species and helping it thrive once more, these gentle giants are known for their horticultural skills. Like my dad, he's a horticulturalist. He's getting me into paleobotany. I'm such an interesting person. They're the only ones who can find long-lost ancient seeds that you can grow into new and unique plants. Like the torch flower and the pit I don't remember what it's called. It literally released today. Pittabra? It starts with a P. The Potiphar flower? I cannot remember to save my life. I was literally playing it earlier. It's not important. So, it's hatching from eggs, as seen like this. Wasn't that a fucking magical experience? That was birth. So, it's hatching from eggs, which is a very unique mechanic that only two other animals in Minecraft do, turtles and chickens. But they're describing the Sniffer like it's a mammal, and sure, you can breed chickens and they'll give birth to live young, but I take things too seriously in my shitty sandbox game that I love and I've been playing for near on a decade. So, fuck Mojang. I'm gonna fucking use taxonomic rankings to define what the hell the Sniffer is. To define the Sniffer, we're using my biology professor's favourite thing, taxonomic ranking. I'm sure you heard about it in your year 6 biology class. There's no need for me to cover it. But I will anyway. I was on a call with RedBean earlier, and I mentioned I was talking about taxonomic ranking, and she was like, what? So I'm going to very quickly describe it. Here's the taxonomic ranking with a fox. You got domain, which is basically, does it have cells with a nuclei? And are those multiple cells? You got kingdom, you got phylum, you got class, you got order, you got family, you got genus, you got species. Each one basically has very specific criteria that you use to separate certain species into. For example, there's a thing called a dichotomous key, and as you're going through it, you can like tick off certain things and like move on to certain questions to determine whether or not you're looking at some. I made one about snakes and how they're different from turtles. So, using this and going in with the basic concept that we know it has cells with nuclei, making it the eukarya domain, definitely an animal, so Animalia kingdom. I mean, would you argue that this is a plant? And assuming it has a flexible rod, aka movable back, then it's in the chordate phylum. I'm also doing this based off of basically every animal that we know today. Don't question my methods. I did not use a dichotomous key for this. I'm fucking lazy. This is why I only get credits in most of my classes. Which leaves everything else in the chart, but we're specifically looking into what damn class it is. Is it any of these? No, these are all the ones that don't fucking matter because the things are this big and they look disgusting. So there's hundreds of subclasses, most of them are irrelevant because it's dealing with tiny shit like this that I hate. But there's 6 main ones for larger species, so let's go over those. We got mammals, which drink milk and have hair, and there's a couple variations of mammals within themselves. Those are called subclasses. I'm sure they're not going to be relevant at all. Foreshadowing. You got aves, which is birds, which are literally so genetically similar to reptiles, it's not even funny. So I'm gonna sum them up in the same paragraph. So aves and reptiles, those are two separate classes, but we're gonna be talking about them together. You got amphibians, like frogs and newts, and this little guy that I saw on a walk with my mum. You got fish. I don't think I need to explain what a fish is. I think it's pretty obvious that this is a fish, and this is a fish, and this is a fish. Just kidding, that's a whale, that's a mammal. Despite what my shitty year 2 teacher said. And you got invertebrate, which, for the sake of this argument, is going to be everything else. It's not, it's like crustaceans and jellyfish and cephalopods is also its own class, but we're just going to cover all of those in invertebrate, which also covers insects. For the sake of this argument, because I'm not separating insects, arachnids, and every other type of insect, so we're just going to call them invertebrate and move on. And of course, there's two other like subclasses, monotremes, which are just weird, and there's the extinct subclass of mammal-like reptiles called synapsids, but I'm sure they won't come up at all. Foreshadowing. Important background info. We know that the sniffer is born of an egg, as seen here. The miracle of life, which rules out placental mammals like cows, bears, and moles. You hear that, Mojang? By your own damn law, it ain't a fucking mole. It also rules out typical marsupials, which, yes, are different from your typical placental mammal. When they're born, they're about the size of a jelly bean, and they crawl up into the pouch, and they latch on, and they don't let go for 2 years, depending on the species. Imagine dealing with that shit. And there are inherent DNA and physical differences between regular mammals and marsupials, but again, we're not talking about marsupials here, so let's forget about it. It's also definitely not a fish. I could say why skeletally, but one, this thing drowns. Fish don't drown. They have gills. And also, does this thing fucking look like a fish? And I'm also going to say, it's not going to be an amphibian. It has no traits of amphibians, like moist skin or phalanges. The literal only similarity is that it lays eggs. So, there's a good possibility with reptile, because as we all know and accept, many species of dinosaur, mostly theropods, had feathers, so we're including reptiles and birds together. Points for reptiles and aves. Lays eggs. Has a beak-like mouth. It actually looks more like a T-Rex's rostrum, like this. I hope I'm on the right side. Looks kind of like this, except differently colored, so we're just going to accept that. Also, if we're thinking about it as a beak, Triceratops beak. Yeah, they had beaks. It's fucking weird, bruh. Its feet. Look at these padded boys. And the fact it has a carapace. That's about all the similarities. And the first two are obvious. Lays eggs. Its mouth kind of looks like this. But let's explain the latter. The carapace is a hard shell which acts as protection for the softer inner body of a creature, like a turtle. It's a squishy boy. I love them. Interestingly, carapaces of this type are only found in reptiles, crustaceans, and insects. I mean, carapaces can also be found in porcupines and echidnas and the armadillo. But let's ignore that, because it's definitely not that. Foreshadowing. Anyways, we can clearly see the sniffer has a carapace-like shell, like a turtle. So that's a point for reptile. It also has these pad-like feet, ignoring the fact it has 6. My lighting just died. We're back. It's a whole ass day later, but we are back. So, the sniffer also has these pad-like feet, ignoring the fact it has 6, because honestly, we're never going to get a clear identification if we use the fact it has 6 feet, so we're just going to fucking ignore it. The sniffer's feet are very similar to Argentinosaurus, as in it's pad-like, it has these kind of weird half toes, and they're very soft because they're trying to hold up this immense body weight. The modern day equivalent is like an elephant or a rhino, but I'm going to use Argentinosaurus because it was my friend Balana's favorite dinosaur. All of these are really good points towards reptile. However, that's where we reach the beginning of our problems of it not being a reptile. 1, it's furry. Here is the one thing that is basically the nail in the coffin, along with external ears. Sure, there's mammals with internal ears, but external ears don't exist in reptiles. That and its rostrum or snout. Sure, it's similar to, like, dinosaurs, specifically T-Rex, but it's a herbivore. It also can thrive in the cold. Which, again, I know, it's a sandbox game, but I'm taking it far too seriously. And I know more than you. This is my degree. Fuck you. The other thing that rules out birds as a possibility is, even if the fur that we see is feathers, birds don't have carapaces. I'm gonna confidently say it's not a reptile or bird. You may be saying, but it's ancient. Ancient doesn't necessarily fucking mean dinosaurs. I will shatter your fucking dreams. Hell, my type of ancient, which is my specialization, is Australian megafauna, which is way post-dinosaur. It's basically Pleistocene to early Holocene, and Pleistocene is basically the last Ice Age. We're technically in an interglacial period right now, which means we're technically still in an Ice Age. Look it up, it's really confusing to explain to people. Yes, I am speaking gibberish, and I will continue to do so. Moral: ancient doesn't mean giant fuck you lizard. But ancient could also mean something closer to our time. Like, the vertebrae that I own. So this is the tail vertebrae of a Thylacoleo carnifex, which was a marsupial lion that lived about, I think, 1 million to about 40,000 years ago. So fun fact about Thylacoleo carnifex, its closest relatives are koalas, which is so weird because our last remaining predators in Australia are Tasmanian tiger, quolls, and our birds, our snakes, our spiders, etc. So the fact that this is more closely related to our fucking chlamydia-ridden, sleepy, fluffy boys is so funny to me. Also, they had opposable thumbs. That's fucking terrifying. Anyways, Thylacoleo carnifex. Ancient doesn't always mean giant fuck you lizard. Sometimes it can mean giant fuck you koala that has opposable thumbs and will latch onto you and bite you with its incisors. The Thylacoleo vertebrae is genuinely, like, the second coolest thing I own after my lightsaber. Now, it could be invertebrate. It lays eggs, it has 6 legs, and it has the carapace. Like, nearly all invertebrate, like insects and crabs. I'm not even gonna lie, there's not a lot of invertebrate I could think of that fit the definition. First, it's too large. Even in the Carboniferous period, which was 359 to 299 million years ago, which was the time of giant insects, like this. I fucking love Prehistoric Park. I hate that so fucking much. Not even in the Carboniferous did insects nearly attain the same size as, say, a pygmy hippo. Look at this adorable creature. It's my second favorite animal. Additionally, the sniffer has hair, ears, and a rostrum, which is unique from any invertebrate. It also definitely has a skeletal structure, as previously mentioned, and not an exoskeleton, so it's definitely not an insect. Controversial opinion. The sniffer is not an insect. So we've eliminated the 6 main classes, which means I can't use science to document this. I mean, I could look at cephalopods, but it obviously has a skeletal structure. I could look at the hundreds more of class options, but they're generally for small things like leeches and starfish and mollusks. None of those smaller ones also fit what the sniffer is. And I know it's a fantasy creature from a sandbox game, but I really thought I could do this. I guess I can't do this scientifically. Just kidding! We have 2 more options. Remember third act structures, children. Also remember foreshadowing. Always use it to try and tube your audience, although 90% of the time it will never work. You all checked how much of the video was left and you all saw 5 minutes. Don't even lie to me. So, synapsids and monotremes. Synapsids, or mammal-like reptiles, are a subset of reptiles and are the evolutionary link between us, humans, and dinosaurs. And basically every mammal and dinosaurs and reptiles. Ever watched Walking with Dinosaurs 1999? Well, I have. Repeatedly. Because it's free on YouTube. Despite its major scientific inaccuracies, including times where things existed, like these two things did not exist at the same time. Well, they did for like 1,000-ish years, but not in this time period. However, it does introduce you to quite well-known linking points between mammals and reptiles. The Thranaxodon. It's quite similar to our sniffer. It gives birth to young that are hatched from eggs, but it also cared for said young, with females lactating, not from a word I can't say on YouTube, but from glands. And, most importantly, it had hair. All of this is a strong contender for the sniffer being a synapsid. Our only real issue is that the Thranaxodon and other synapsids that we found lack a carapace. There is a solution to the issue with the synapsid, and it's in the synapsid's last living descendants, the monotreme, and those still exist today. You can come to Australia and see them. Monotremes only exist in two groups today, the echidnas and the platypuses. Platypus. The hairy-looking fucks. So, monotremes lay eggs, and though echidnas have a pouch and they have the word I can't say on YouTube, that they lactate in said pouch, platypuses, interestingly enough, don't have a pouch. Instead, they nurse their young through the glands, similar to a synapsid. Platypuses and echidna don't have ears like a sniffer, but echidnas do have visible ears with a little flap over them. And most interestingly enough, echidnas have a carapace, though not one of bone. It's the spines, which are made of keratin, like your hair and nails and rhino tusks. As they are made of very hard keratin and there is some slight cartilage backing on it, they are considered carapaces. The sniffer's nose is similar, if a more rotund version of the platypus's beak-like rostrum, and the nail on the coffin is their identical feet, plus or minus some claws. Look at the echidna's little rounded paw feet, and then look at the sniffers. They're identical. Aside from the sniffers is made up of a bunch of pixels and the echidnas are real. With all of these similarities, the sniffer could well be an ancient extinct monotreme that I could dig up somewhere in the middle of fucking nowhere, Australia. The only real thing that throws a loop in this theory is the fact it has 6 legs. The 2 additional limbs could happen if, say, a mutation happened in the sniffer's evolutionary ancestor that proved advantageous. Either way, there's weird shit in our history, and in our modern day, have you seen a barracuda's skull? So there, Mojang, despite your trials and tribulations, as someone who is studying extinct animals, you gave me a fictional one to uncover its secrets and basically write an identification paper on. I actually have an assignment that's writing an identification paper for something, so I should have actually probably done that instead of writing one for a fictional Minecraft creature. Aside from that, thank you, Mojang, because paleontology is a massive field, and what you've basically done is given players this new insight into paleontology and a goal of paleontology, which is looking into extinct animals and seeing how they'd interact with the world both then and now, and we're bringing one back to life. And yes, technically as a monotreme, the sniffer would technically still be a mammal, but fuck you! You can't undo my methodology. Go do it yourself. I'm the one who sat down, wrote a script, and videoed it, and worked out all of the links and figures. And yes, this is what the actual taxonomic ranking of the sniffer would look like. Sure, there's some bits missing, but that's because I don't know certain things about it, and I don't have anything to compare it to, so fuck you! This is my ranking of a fictional video game character. Good night. Hello! Thank you for watching this video. I'm Vestige GG, and if you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Follow me on my other social medias. So I'll see you all on the flip side.